All right, welcome back to Two Plain Sports, episode 9. This time we are gonna go over softball and golf. They're the only Oklahoma sports really going on right now. Like we said last time, we're kind of in that part of the year where there's not too much to talk about. So we are definitely going to be focusing on softball and golf over the next couple of weeks as they get through their national championship runs. Um, to start off, let's go ahead and just talk about golf real quick. I believe it was today or yesterday. They went, they were going to the last round for the regionals, coming in with a very big deficit that they needed to come back from. And I believe it was the last 6 holes. They came back from a 4-stroke deficit to qualify in the last spot for the national championship. Do you have any thoughts on what happened today, bro?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy that it took this long and they almost blew it to be able to get it together and put together a solid round. I mean, the thought of going into the final 6 holes of the whole tournament and needing to shoot 4 under to make the cut to the national championship. I mean, being the number one seed or one of the top seeds, you don't think you would ever be in that position. But things happen, and I think maybe they had a little bit of a hangover from the Big 12 tournament between OU, OSU, and Texas, where they were playing extra holes, and Oklahoma State ended up pulling it out in the end. And I think that might have had a little bit of a hangover, and it took them a couple days and a couple rounds to wake up. But at the end of the day, all you really need is to play well enough to get in, punch your ticket. And they did that. They didn't have much to spare, but they made it through. And they keep up their streak of 10 straight national championship tournaments, which is a pretty remarkable stretch that they've been on in the last decade now. The Big 12 looked really good. We were one of 5 teams that made it. Obviously, Oklahoma State made it, Texas made it. I believe it was Texas Tech, and then TCU made it as well, which is pretty good. And Texas Tech actually ended up winning our regional. I can't say and sit here and say I'm an expert in golf or anything, but we're ranked number one for a reason, and I think we had a good wake up call, and I'd like to see that. I like to think we can make a run and win a national championship this year. Do you have anything else to add to that?
And I think it just shows how hard golf is, not only to be good at it, but to consistently stay at the top. Like they were obviously talented enough to come back and qualify in that last spot, but like if they didn't get it together, easily could have been out of it. And I feel like it's probably one of the hardest sports to consistently stay. Like you said, 10 national championship appearances probably is one of the hardest sports to do that in. I mean, football is tough just because there's only 4 spots, but obviously it's not hard enough if Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma, we make it very consistently. But I can't. Like you said, I don't know enough about golf, especially college golf. But I can't imagine there are too many teams consistently staying in the top and making sure that they don't slip in regards to their talent and being
Yeah.
able to qualify.
Yeah. No, I mean, and you got to think about it whenever you're, these tournaments, you're playing with only a few other guys and girls, for the women's team. And so if someone's having a bad day, and we've played golf before, and granted, I know we're not college golfers, but when you have a bad day, it can be bad.
Yeah.
And if you're one of the few that are playing that day and shoot 3, 4, 5 over, I mean, that's a big deal. You can't, it's not just a one person deal. And then, at least in football, there's 11 people on offense and 11 on defense. You've got 22 players and then special team players. When you're playing tournament style college golf, there's only a handful. And it's pretty impressive to be in this, for the 10th straight year.
Definitely. I mean, I can't imagine the stress those guys go through if they have one bad round. It's you can easily point to, you know, Jack was the reason that the team didn't make it because the other 3 did fine. They did enough if he would have, a couple strokes better or something. But
Yeah.
Definitely can't be easy to be on the
And
stage
with
like that.
the slim margin that they made it, yeah, and with the slim margin that they made it, I mean, that's one player could have ruined it for them, and going down the stretch, and they just pulled it out. But
Yep,
sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, I guess.
it's true.
So we'll see.
Definitely true. But that's it with golf for now. We'll make sure to stay on top of the national championship that will be
And I'm
played in Scottsdale
yeah,
this year. I'm not sure if that's
I
on all the time, but
I
they will
think
be live in
it's
Scottsdale.
I think it starts May 28th. I think it's Memorial Day weekend.
Yep.
So coming up.
It will be fun, and hopefully it's not too hot. I'm out here in Arizona, and right now we've been hitting the hundreds the last 3 days. So hopefully those guys aren't playing through 105-degree weather, because I'm sure that won't be fun to be out for 6 hours
No
in this
matter
heat.
no matter if it's a dry heat or not, I tell you what, I mean, it's 105 and at the end of May is pretty brutal.
Yeah, those guys are going to be nice and crispy by the end of the day if it's this hot next week.
Yeah.
Um, but next thing, Oklahoma softball, the Big 12 tournament was last weekend. Pretty good run there by the girls. We run ruled Oklahoma State as we should have every single time before this, but we pulled it out. National Big 12 champions again, and now we're heading into the regionals of the national championship. What'd you take away from the Big 12 championship, bro?
I mean, in that whole tournament, it's OU pretty much cruised. I know our opening game, which I believe was against Baylor, we trailed against them in the early first couple innings, and then they finally turned it on. I mean, it was pretty comfortable. I think they losing to Oklahoma State in the way they played in that final series. I know we won 2 out of 3, but I think it was a pretty good eye opener and a little bit of a test. They've dropped one against OSU, and then they dropped one a couple weeks ago against Georgia. So I think they've kind of realized that they are beatable, and sometimes it's better to lose in the regular season and get that out of the way. But I mean, really, the big takeaway was I believe her name was Kinsey Hansen. Hit 5 home runs over the 3 games, and that just goes to show. I mean, this Oklahoma team lives off of these home runs. I mean, we've got 130 as a team so far, which is 28 off of the all-time record, which, with the amount of games they're getting ready to play, if they make a deep run and should, go to the national championship like they should, they very well could set an all-time record this postseason, which would be pretty exciting. It's we need those home runs, and I think the girls will deliver. What were your takeaways?
Yeah, no, I think mentioning Kenzie, she's having her own personal home run derby out there, and it's just not fair. If you're the pitcher for the other team, you can't be thinking I'm striking her out this time. You're probably stressing out, just making sure she doesn't hit a dinger off you. But yeah, we've got very talented team. We're like you said, we live off of these big hits, making sure we're running up the score. We're not really. We've got a great defense, but I wouldn't say that we're probably set to play a defensive game. We've got to consistently be running up the score. I think some of the players to watch over the next few games are going to be Kenzie, like you said. I think if she can keep up her own personal home run derby, we're going to be just fine with a few other girls trickling in their dingers through the tournament. And then the two girls, our two freshmen, um, Coleman and Jennings. They've made some big plays. Coleman stole the home run during the Big 12 championship. They're going to be very important to make sure that we are going to ultimately the girls' goal is to win a national championship, win the World Series, and they're going to be very important to make sure that we're able to do that.
Yeah, and then talking about another freshman is Nicole May. In that final series against Oklahoma State, she was brought into a lot of high pressure, base runners on situations and kind of bailed us out. And I kind of think that Patty has realized that she can be put in those high pressure situations if we get in trouble with our starting pitchers. And I think she's going to play a vital role going into this run. And, she very well might be getting thrown out in the World Series, and, a couple runners on and we're up 2 runs. And speaking of kind of high, intensity situations and stress situations, that championship game, going back to that, there were, I think it was 2 straight innings, Oklahoma State loaded up the bases and they didn't get a single run. And, that is, as far as momentum goes, that really killed them. I mean, they got a couple solo home runs, and then Jada Coleman robbed one, which was awesome. Definitely a SC top 10. But, we kind of escaped that a little bit. If we would have let 2-3 runs there and they would have still got those 2 home runs, we would have had probably a different ball game, with the momentum and everything. So it was, granted, that's why we're the best team in the country. We win those situations, and one thing, a couple small things really changes the outcome of a game. They ended up getting run ruled. But, I really think playing Oklahoma State, was it 4 times in the last 7 games or 6 games? I think that prepared us pretty well, and because they're one of the top teams in the country, definitely top 10 teams in the country. I believe they got the 5 or 7 seed, I can't remember, in this, the tournament. And being able to play a team of that quality that many times, that's a good practice run. Yeah. But that's all I've really got on at least the Big 12 tournament. Do you have anything else to add before we move on to the tournament, the NCAA tournament?
No, I think that's it for the Big 12. Obviously we have a lot of great girls, but they're going to need to step up for this next step in getting to their ultimate goal, which, like I said, is the national championship. But I mean, what do you expect out of the girls in the regionals and the super regionals?
I mean, obviously, so our region is Oklahoma, which is us, the Morgan State, Wichita State, and Texas A&M. With that, we've played Wichita State a couple weeks ago. We run ruled them by the 5th inning, 14-5 or 14-3, I believe. I believe that's going to be our first game. I can't remember, but I think we're going to be able to take care of business pretty easily. I mean, it's at home. I don't really see us struggling in that bracket. I mean, I could be wrong, but I really don't. I don't see Wichita State giving us, too hard of a time. I know they beat Oklahoma State earlier this year, so I guess you never know. Really, my biggest takeaway is where they put Washington. Really putting Washington in the 16th seed. And I don't know if you saw the selection show. They have those live cameras going into the locker rooms or the film rooms, wherever they're watching it. And when they seated Washington at 16, the girls got up and didn't even finish watching who they're playing and all that other stuff. They literally got up and walked out. So I would assume they're a little upset, which I think they have a very valid case. I still feel like every sport has this SEC bias a little bit to it. I mean, there's no reason, what is it, LSU, I think they're like 32-19, and they're a 7 seed. There's no reason why they should be a 7 seed, and Washington, who's 41-11, is a 16 seed. So we kind of got a tough end, short end of the stick here to be playing Washington, in our super regionals. I mean, what else do you think?
Yeah, no, I think, like you said, it screwed over the girls in Washington. With the record that they had and the season that they had, they definitely should have been, a top 10 seed, but somehow the dice rolled for them. They definitely make the super regionals a lot more interesting for Oklahoma, even though I think Oklahoma won't lose a game. I don't believe that we're going to be run ruling anyone, past the regionals. Washington's definitely going to be a hard out for us. They're obviously very talented. So we just got to, like I said earlier, like you said earlier, we got to make sure that we're driving up the score. Because if we ever,
Mm-hmm.
go into, if we finish an inning and don't get a run in or just one run in, we might get in trouble because it's softball. Softball is very different from baseball where hits are going to come and you just got to make sure that you get your runners back in more than the other team. It's not baseball obviously has a lot more battles where it's a little bit more defensive focused, but softball doesn't seem to have those situations come up too often. So as long as we can keep, Kenzie can keep hitting her home runs, we keep just getting, just keep getting hits, making sure we bring the girls back in, then we should be fine. But
Yeah.
what Washington's going to be able to keep up for sure.
Yeah, and another one I'm keeping my eye on is who's not a freshman, but Alo. I don't know how much you've been watching, but they've been talking about how she's been wanting to be more of a leader, and she's been focusing a lot more this year, and she's played great. She has 20 something home runs this year. I think this is where her leadership, because she's been here, we've got some older players as well, but I think this is where she's going to step up and, really make a name for herself, as if she hasn't already. But I really think this is her year to win a national championship since, we lost in 2019 to UCLA and then obviously lost last year to COVID. I think she's going to be ready to win one. And I think there's no reason why we shouldn't. And, we can't really totally predict how everything's going to play out. But, I was kind of thinking, as far as for the World Series play of, bracket or pool or whatever you want to call it, for 8 teams, it's going to be OU, Tennessee, Oklahoma State, Florida, UCLA, Florida State, Alabama, and Arkansas. We've talked about this before that in softball, a lot of times the cream of the crop is going to make the tournament, the World Series. Sometimes I know in 2019, I think Oklahoma State actually slipped in as like a 13 seed, if I'm not mistaken. You get those handful of teams that will sneak in like that every year. We'll probably have one or two surprises. But really, when you're this good, when you're in Oklahoma, you're a UCLA, you're a Florida, you're always making, and in Alabama for that matter. I mean, you're always making it to the World Series more times than not. I mean, when you're that good, it's just that's the way it goes. It's just like football. I mean, Alabama's always there, Clemson's always there, Oklahoma's always there, and Ohio State, and that's really kind of it right now. And I think just with the powers of where softball is, I think that's just what we're looking at for the World Series.
For sure. Yeah, these girls are gonna. I don't think they'll run into their biggest matchup until probably the pool play into the World Series, depending on who they get. But in their bracket during that time. But yeah, it's gonna be if we get a UCLA, probably not UCLA. They'll probably be in the other bracket. But if we get Florida, then they're definitely gonna be a tough game to get through.
Yeah, there's a very good chance that UCLA, like you said, I think will be in the other bracket, but there's a very good chance we'll probably end up with Florida, and if we don't end up with Florida, we'll probably end up with Alabama. I mean, they're probably going to put one in each, and they're both very talented, and so we'll see. It's exciting. It's coming up. Here, what is it? I think in the next couple days. I think it's this weekend. I think it's like the 21st. It starts.
Friday is the first game. Yeah,
Yeah.
For the regionals.
Yeah, so that'll be fun to watch this weekend. Definitely going to be live tweeting and following our Sooners and Washington. Really, I'm going to be keeping my eye on them for sure as the pool play goes. But that's all I've got for the softball. Other than that, I'm just really excited and hope we can pull it out this year.
Yep, it'll be a fun couple weeks here for softball, and like you said, hopefully we get the result we want at the end, which is Sooners raising up that national championship trophy and bringing another one home. pretty much in sports, that's really the biggest things happening right now. For Oklahoma, we do have the ChampU BBQ coming up. From what Brum looked into, we have over 40 confirmed recruits coming in for that. They're going to be in Norman, mingling, getting to know each other, getting to know the coaching staff. What do you know? Some of the bigger names coming in for that?
I mean, so it's the classes of 22 and 2023. It's I mean, big time guys. It's the amount of 5 stars, 4s, and 5 stars that are coming in is I, I haven't seen this kind of recruiting event, and maybe that's somewhat contributed to COVID, shutting everything down for the last 15, 16 months. Um, but I mean, like 2023 class, I mean, Malachi Nelson, quarterback, he's like the number 1 or 2 quarterback, depending on who you're looking at. Arch Manning and him are normally flipped back and forth between, depending on the website. Makai Lemon, which is his teammate and best friend, he's the number 1 athlete. Brandon Ennis, who's one of the top receivers. Hale, I think his name is Jordan Hale from Texas. I mean, he's the top 5 wide receiver in the 2023 class. I mean, it's just loaded. It's honestly insane how much talent is going to be at our recruiting event in the next couple of weeks, which is June 18th, I believe, is that weekend. If Lincoln can get a third of them, that's a win in itself right there. I mean, you get a third of them. You're not going to get them all, but Malachi has said that he wants to announce, I believe it's July 18th, to start recruiting his class, kind of like what Caleb Williams did for his.
Yeah.
So I see Malachi, I don't think he's going anywhere else. He was going to go visit Clemson. Sounds like he's kind of backing off of that. And, USC, he said that's his, dream school and stuff. But after what happened with him losing trust in him because they offered other quarterbacks after they told him he would, and they're done too. And it seems like he's going to be an Oklahoma Sooner come this summer, which is, it's always good to be getting the number 1 or number 2 quarterbacks in the class every other year. It's kind of a nice trend.
Definitely. And do you know so I know you were saying that they were class of 23. I think Malachi is class of 22. Class of 23 right now has OU crystal balled for the number 1 overall recruit, who is his father played at OU. I can't remember what years or what position, but I don't know if he'll be there as well.
Yeah, and you know what? I think you're actually right with that. And no, 2023, because wait, Caleb
Malachi is
Williams.
22. Caleb is.
Yeah, Caleb was 20, wasn't he?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I think you're right. But yeah, it's Lebrus Overton, I think his name is the number 1 guy. But yeah, I mean, it's just regardless of what year it is, it's just going to be insane the amount of talent and in that way. Well, actually, now I think about it, how you thought Caleb Williams was 2020. Well, he was a December grad. He was not supposed to come till the summer, so he's the class of 21. Yeah,
It's
it doesn't
confusing.
matter.
Yeah, like you said, the year doesn't matter. We've got
Right.
so many highly recruited, very talented, kids coming in for this ChampU
Yeah.
BBQ, and I'm sure that won't be the last recruiting event that we're going to see them and more of their
No,
friends,
no,
5-star, 4-star friends coming in to hang out with Link and Coach Grinch.
I'd like to think it's going to go well. Get a third of them, get 10 to 15 of them. That's good enough for me. I mean, 10 or 15 4-stars between 2 classes, and then you can fill in the rest over the next few months, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I think my biggest fear right now for Oklahoma football, and it's not like it's been reported, there's no rumors or anything, but if Oklahoma defense keeps trending the way it is and the Oklahoma defense recruiting keeps going the way it is, because we've improved a lot over the last 3-4 years with Grinch and Lincoln being, being heavily involved in the recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
We went from getting, 3 stars and maybe a couple 4 stars trickled in here and there to mainly being 4-star players and being in finalists for 5-star corners, defensive ends, anything that you can think of. We've been, towards the top of a lot of 5 stars lists now. So, I think Grinch is going to start getting a lot of really, very interested schools offering him a head coaching position and obviously a lot of money with it. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's a school like USC, these bigger schools in big cities because of the name, image, and likeness that's eligible. I think it starts this football season. This fall is
Mhm.
when the kids get to start making some money off of signing autographs and being in video games. You know, if he's able to show that he can recruit all his defensive players and build a program, obviously he's built the OU defense with the help
Mhm.
of Lincoln Riley. There's no reason why schools aren't
Yeah.
going to be offering him top dollar to go be their head coach and rebuild a program. Like I think USC is probably going to be heavy favorites to come after a guy like him because their program is shit. And when the Trojans are good, college football is just more interesting to watch.
Oh, it is. I mean, that's going to be the scary deal. At least, hopefully, if we win the national championship this year, it'll make it. It'll make the sting a little less,
Yeah,
hurt a little less. But I don't know. We'll have to see.
we'll
So,
have to definitely keep an eye out. Hopefully, those rumors never happen, so we never have to deal with Grinch leaving. I think that
yeah.
would probably be the most devastating thing. I love Lincoln, and he's great because he's obviously created a great offense. But if I ever see Coach Grinch leave, I might shed a few tears because that guy has completely changed the program. Obviously, alongside with Lincoln, but those two paired together are a power couple in coaching circles, and I don't think we're gonna find others that are able to build a program so quickly with such talented players.
Yep. But we'll see. I mean, I'm excited for this season. It's
Yep,
exciting stuff. So,
for sure. Do you have
um,
any final thoughts before we wrap it up for this week?
not a whole lot. There's no reason why OU shouldn't sweep everyone in the tournament. So if they don't, that's their own fault. They're too talented to be getting beat by other teams right now. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe they might lose one against UCLA, but I'd like to think that they could sweep their way through. But we'll see.
we'll see. I'm kind of imagining a picture right now of every single head coach for an Oklahoma sport holding out their hand with their newly gifted championship ring because every single sport seems to be loaded with talent. So, well, hopefully, the softball is only the first domino to fall in that national championship chase for this next year.
And then it's going to be golf, and then we'll keep it rolling.
See
So,
what we can do. All right. Well, that's it. Thanks everyone for watching again. As always, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, go follow us on Twitter, go check out our Facebook page. We're going to be, as always, posting every Thursday, and make sure to check out our new Who Dat series, which covers, all the new kids that are coming into the OU family. Last week was it's the
Micah
new
Bowens.
quarterback, Micah Bowens, came out of Penn State. So go check that out if you haven't. And keep an eye out for next Monday as we cover a new member of the OU football family, learn a little bit about him and cover what we think he's going to do for the program for this upcoming season. Yeah, like I said, I hope everyone had a great night and enjoyed. We'll see you next time.